Hey everyone, this is Panjali from mywritingmyworld.com, and this is my first live with a very known person, a very humble and email marketing expert, Meera, and she is also an best-selling Amazon author. So we are going to discuss her journey as an Amazon best-selling author and how to make it big in Amazon. So if you have any questions, please put it in the comment section, and definitely she is going to answer everyone. Okay, first of all, Meera, welcome to the live show, to the
Thank you
Writers
so
Club.
much. Thank you.
Okay, and I have been a fan since long of your email marketing things and everything. But tell me your journey as an author. We all know about your email marketing tips and email marketing side, but the author side it's quite unknown to
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
So
I just want to say thank you because when you reached out about this topic, to speak about the author journey, it's usually not a request that I get. Most people want to talk about the blogging journey or the marketing side of it, but yeah, not really the author aspect of it. So I'm really excited to chat with you guys. So the thing is, I never really saw myself as an author. I always liked to write, but I didn't see myself as an author. I mean, even when I had like one or two books out on Amazon, I had a lot of fear in embracing that word author. So it was only, I think it was after my third book was out when I was like, all right, I think I should call myself that. So yeah, I mean, how did it start? I had a blog. I had grown an audience via my blog. So when I was thinking, okay, how else can I use my passion, which is writing, how else can I use that to possibly add a different income stream or another income stream which is separate from my blog? So that's when I thought, all right, maybe I should self-publish. And that's when I started to know more about self-publishing. So when I thought about that first book, when I was in the process of writing that first book, it was really, really scary. But yeah, I mean, I think once that book was out and then I got the reactions and everyone was like, it's a good book, that was when I was like, all right, I can breathe easy in a sense. So it wasn't like all right, I know I'm going to be an author. I know there are some people who, like, they know from the very start they're going to be an author,
yes,
but for me
yes.
it was never like that. It was kind of like a decision that came afterwards, more of like a business decision. But
Like,
but now is when I'm actually
okay,
embracing that term.
okay. So how far, how did you find yourself an author when people actually leave comments like reviews on Amazon your book pages? How do you feel? Like lots of people like they got benefit from your books,
Yeah.
and I know a few people who religiously follow all the books. So
Yeah.
how do you feel like to be an author?
um it's okay. The thing is, initially when I published my books, it was a big, like I mentioned, it was scary in the sense that I would check my reviews like almost every single day. Like, and
Okay,
if I had
okay,
like
okay,
a little bit of a negative review, it would pull me down.
hmm,
But I think
okay,
as writers or authors, when you are prepared to put your work out there, you also have to be prepared that not everyone is going to like your work. So there are going to be people who will love your work, and there are going to be people who don't like it at the same time. So
absolutely.
you cannot be for everyone. So that is something that I've come to realize, and it's a bit of a process. It's not something that came naturally to me. So when I started out, when I saw negative reviews, it was kind of like a downer. But now I kind of view it as when I tend to see the positive reviews more, and every positive review is kind of like an increased responsibility for me, because when you have your first book, it's like you're like a clean slate. No one knows you. You're brand new. But once you have another book and another book out there, and you build an audience from those books, you have that responsibility to meet that expectation. So for me right now, it's just about that. It's increased responsibility to meet the expectations with every book that I put out there. Yeah.
Okay. And you write nonfiction, okay? And on the contrary to fictions where authors are invested in a given universe or something. So, how do you plan your book as a non-fiction author, and how much time do you dedicate to research for this
Yeah.
book?
So yeah, that's a good question. With any nonfiction book, I think even before you write a single word, you need to see if, number one, that's a book that's worth writing in the first place. So
Okay.
you want to see if there will be an audience for that book. So what I like to do is usually see if there are others who have written about the same topic,
Okay.
and if there isn't, that might be a good and a bad thing, because if there aren't books on that, it could just be that there's no demand for a book like that. But if there
Yes.
is, there are lots of authors who are writing on that topic, it means that that is a huge pain point. That is something that a lot of people are searching for answers about. So that is what you want to do first and foremost. See if there are other people who are writing similar topics, in the same kind of niche that you're looking for. So, for instance, when I was thinking about the 1 hour content plan, I went to see whether there were people writing about content, or writing blog posts and stuff like that. So after you kind of identify that, all right, I can do this topic, look out for gaps. What hasn't the market addressed? What have they not talked about? But maybe that, all right, people are actually asking this, but no one has written about that. So that is what I try to do. I try to see if there is a gap that I can fill in with my book, because you don't want your book to be another Me Too book, another book that is going to be one among the thousands on Amazon. So if you want your book to make a little bit of a mark, a little bit of a dent, you want to see whether there is a gap that you can fill. So that is the second
Okay.
thing that you should do. Find out where there's a gap. So when it comes to the researching aspect, usually I try to do kind of like the first step is just like a brain dump. So I would just kind of just everything that comes to my mind about the topic, I would just put it down on paper.
Jot down. Okay.
Yeah, just jot it down. I'm not really a mind map person, so yeah, for me it's just just kind of like vomit it out
Writing
on
everything.
paper. Exactly.
Okay.
And then after that, try and make sense, as in see how certain concepts or ideas can be grouped together. And then once you have those groupings will become maybe sections or chapters and stuff like that. So the research for me is, I know there are people who do research at the very beginning, and then after that only they would write their book. For me, it's kind of like a in between process. So I would have my overall outline, and then as I'm writing it, that's when I would know that, all right, I need a certain quotation for this, I need a certain reference for this. So I would just make a mark, and then I would go and do my research.
It's a
So
simultaneous process.
exactly. Yeah. So for
Okay.
me, yeah, that is in a nutshell kind of how I do it. And actually, the book, I'm trying to tighten down my process. My first book took me very long. Like it took me like
Okay.
4 months, like 3 to 4 months to write it. But after that, I've been trying to make it shorter and shorter and shorter. So now I could possibly do it in about like 1 to 2 months. I could write. I mean, this is
Yep.
apart from the
That's
editing.
impressive.
Yeah, I mean, because you see, when you're writing a Kindle book, it's not very long. It's not like a fiction book where it's like 80,000
Yes.
words or 60,000 words. So you could get out a Kindle book in 15 to 20,000 words or 25,000 words. So yeah, about 1 to 2 months for the writing, and then after that, ship it out to an editor, and a designer and all that. Yeah.
Okay. And people, these are gold mine of information from Meera, who has so many best-selling books on Amazon. I'm sure you are noting down everything she is saying. Okay. Meera, this is a very generous question, but still I'm going to ask,
Okay.
what does this means to you as an author? Like it's
What?
in terms of
Okay.
self or like helping people.
Yeah. Okay. The thing is, when you're talking about sales, When let's say someone says, yeah, I want sales, it comes across as oh, they're being bad or they're being negative. But the thing is, only when you've done your marketing properly and you have a book that is capable of being when it's in a position and it's primed to sell, that's when you can reach more people, and that's when you can help more people. So for me, it's you want your book to be poised to make sales. At the same time, it should be something that helps people at the same time, because it kind of goes hand in hand. If you have a book that sells, your reach is really good, and when your reach is good, your book will get into more people's hands and you will help more people in that way. But when I started out as a clean slate, for me it was more about, if I could just help one person with that book, or if one person had an impact from that book, that would be good enough for me. So even now, try and get back to the basics of, all right, if I could just transform, or if I could just have a tiny change for one person, then you've done your job, then that book has done its job. Because like I said, you cannot please everyone with your book. So
Okay,
yeah, that's
that's
what
so
success means
true.
to me.
You can please and everyone, but even if one person gets benefit from it,
Yeah,
this is what it was. Every page,
exactly.
every website, and every like. I personally believe that if my blog or my book are going to teach someone something, that's worth of everything. Even if
Yeah.
I get less sales, but I get an email that from a person that says, "Hey, Anjali, your blog is so good. They're helping me so much. That's so worth it."
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Moving into the next questions. How does it feel to be a best-selling author? Because
Oh,
I think lots of people would
um,
like to know how actually it feels to be a best-selling author.
honestly, it's it's not very different. It's like I mentioned, it's actually more of like yeah, you actually feel a little bit more pressure, because when you publish your next book, your audience is going to see if that
Yes,
book meets up to the other books, or whether, hey, is this one going to get on the bestsellers list, or is this one going to do as well as your other book? So it's a little bit of pressure actually to kind of keep up with what you have done. um so yeah, I mean, it's not very different, but it's more of like a kind of like a pressure actually, to have that,
absolutely.
yeah.
And I think email marketing tips, your latest book, it actually debuted as a number one spot, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, congratulations on that.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, and so what is the one thing you would like to share with the aspiring writer who actually
Okay.
wants to make it big on Amazon as a self-published author?
Yeah, okay, the thing is, you can there are lots of people teaching different strategies. Like what I shared with you today is just one way of doing it. There are so many people who will teach different things. They will tell you to look out for keywords, look out for categories, which is what you should do as well. But beyond that, if there's one thing that I want to share, whether this is your first book, whether you have published before or you haven't published, or maybe it's even your fourth book, you will always feel that resistance when you start writing. Like for me, if I'm thinking about, I've already started on my next one, so that would
Oh,
be my, like, what, maybe it's like my fifth book. If you include my two workbooks that I've done, it would be my seventh. Yeah, I think it's my seventh. But still, you get all that doubt, like, would this is this a topic that people want to know about? Should I even write this? Who am I to write this? So writing, even getting to a single page, you will feel a lot of resistance. So if you've read the book, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, you will kind of know what I'm talking about. So he says that any creative work you do, you would get lots and lots of resistance. It's almost like this physical force that is stopping you from doing the work that you're meant to do. Um, so anyone who is going through this and you're feeling that, I can't write, I'm not good for this, or I don't think, I'm meant to write this, just know that it's not just you who is going through that. Every single person who has put any kind of creative work out there has been through this process. So it's hard for me even now, as I'm writing my fifth book or my seventh book or whatever that is. So yeah, just try and get past that resistance. Like, block out everything else if you can. Kind of have a few hours where you can just work on, it's just you and that blank page, and then try and get to a certain goal. Maybe you want to write 500 words a day or 1,000 words a day. Try and keep to that goal, and you will notice that it gets easier. Yeah.
Okay, and one thing I would like to ask you that lots of people they get very confused with the categories on Amazon and what to write for about the book or about the author. So, do you have any tips for that?
You mean the type of categories you should choose?
Yes, yes, yes. Okay.
Okay, usually what I do for categories is, okay, because you have so-called big categories, or what are parent categories, and if you click into one particular category, there is kind of like a flow down, and there are so many minor categories within that big one. So if you look at something like business and money, if you click on that, there are lots of small categories within that. So don't immediately aim for the big categories. Try and place your book within one of the smaller ones, because it gives you a kind of like a fighting chance of standing out. So another thing is, what I want you guys to kind of keep in mind is, before you decide on your categories, think about what your goal is for Amazon. I mean, is it you just want to be a best-selling author? Because if you are a best-selling author, that is kind of like a credibility or an authority mark. And if you have that, maybe you can get more clients. So the Amazon is kind of like a means to an end. But for me, my goal on Amazon was a little bit different. For me, my goal was to create a separate revenue stream. But for other people, they just wanted to be known as a best-selling author, because you can be a best-selling author and still not have your book make sales or not do as well. That is something that
Absolutely.
people need to keep in mind. Yeah. So when you're choosing your categories, have this in mind. If you want to just have that best-selling mark, then you can choose almost any category, with that kind of makes sense to your niche. So look at the first 1 to 5 books that are out there. Anything that is less than, if you look at the best Amazon ABSR, they call it the Amazon bestseller rank. Within each book, there's a rank. So if it's something that is 3,000 or less, or 1,000 or less, then that is quite a competitive book. Then you might find it difficult to kind of get that number one spot in that category. So
Okay.
look at the first 1 to 5 or the first 1 to 10 books. See if you even have a fighting chance of getting your book in that first spot. So it's not just about getting it on that first spot, but it's whether you can sustain it for that length of time.
Longer period. Okay.
Correct. Exactly. So yeah, so that is one thing you have to remember. Being a bestseller does not mean your book will sell, because you can be a bestseller for 2 days and then you lose your that orange banner,
Got
the bestseller banner, and you can still call yourself a best-selling author. So the main thing is whether your book is able to sustain in sales. So it depends on your goals. What do you want out of Amazon? That is one thing you need to be very clear about.
Okay. And for self-published authors, it's very hard to maintain the discipline and the decorum of writing, because there are so many thousands of things which can distract a writer and
Yeah.
author. So, how do you keep yourself writing? Like,
Oh
how
gosh,
do you
I get
block out
distracted
everything?
every day. I get distracted every day. Like even today, I told myself, okay, I'm gonna wake up early, and then I set my alarm 6:30. Okay, I was up at 6:30, but rather than start working, I was checking my email, and then I went on Facebook, and so it happens to all of us. Um,
That happens. That happens.
yeah, so it's hard, but what I like to do is, usually when I'm halfway through my book, I will email my editor and I will tell her. So there's this lady that I work with for the last 2 to 3 of my books. So I tell her, okay, I'm going to send you my book in the next 3 weeks. Even though it's not done, I tell her, okay, I'm going to send you my book in the next 3 weeks. Are you available? So she's usually comes back and say, yes, I'm available. So I'll get your manuscript the third week. So I know that, okay, if I don't send it to her, she's going to come back and chase me. So I kind of have like a deadline for when I want to do it. And then, yeah, and then it's just you battling against Facebook and Netflix and everything else. But yeah, try and find a space in between. Like for me, I work when my daughter's in school. So when she's in school, I have like a little bit of time, like 3 hours, and then I try and get it done. And I work best when I kind of do a sprint, which means the only thing I work on is my book for that 1 week or for that 1.5 or 2 weeks. It's a little bit difficult, especially if you have a launch going on, if you have something going on, or let's say, you're doing interviews or summits. It's a little bit difficult. But if you can, try and clear out your schedule and just say, okay, 1 to 2 weeks, I'm going to get a really dirty, loose draft out there. And yeah, because what you need is that first draft. And then editing can come later on. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And do you every time? This is my habit. Whenever I write something, I have that habit of editing it on the
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
So
I
are
know.
you guilty of that thing also?
Yeah, I used to be guilty of that. I used to, but now, what I found that is helpful is when I'm writing something and I can't think of a word or I can't think of a nice way of saying it, I just put the first thing that comes to my mind. I just put an X there, so that I know that, okay, this part needs to be worked on, or this part there is a gap. I need to come back and fill it in. But yeah, that is like the worst thing that we can do for to ourselves, is to edit
Yes,
as
yes,
we are
right.
writing. So yeah, so
No,
I'm
that's
guilty of
that's
that
the
as
worst
well.
enemy.
Exactly, I'm guilty of that as well.
Okay. And the last question for you is that how do you see yourself in the next 10 years?
Oh
Is as
gosh.
a are you going for traditional publishers, or you are happy with your self-publishing thing?
Um, Honestly, I'm happy being self-published. I don't have aspirations to go the traditionally published route, because I know that, honestly, I think self-published authors can make a lot more. They have a lot more reach than some published authors. I mean, of course, if you're a published author, then if you're like a really big name, then of course, you shouldn't even be comparing yourself with those people. But there are lots of small people out there who manage to go, get an agent and then secure a publishing house. But in the end, because I've been reading things about that, the experience they have is really bad, and they don't
Yeah,
sell
I
as
know.
much books, and the publishing houses don't really do much to help them with the marketing. So they are on their own with the marketing. So in that case, I think we'll be better off to self-publish first. So don't have that pressure of wanting to go the traditional route, because you are way better off as a self-published author, reach wise, connection with your audience, or even monetary wise. So yeah, I mean, in 10 years down the road, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would still love to be putting work out there, but I want to do it on my terms. So I don't want to be like, at the beck and call of like a publishing house. If it
Bound to
comes
be a
to me,
publisher.
exactly. If
Okay.
it comes to me, fine. But I'm not like, that is not like my end destination or anything like that.
Okay. I wish you all the best for your coming book.
Thank
And there
you.
are some comments. Let me
Okay.
check. Okay. Sonia says, "Hi, Sonia. So glad to see you, Meera. Have been a huge admirer of your work ever since I started blogging 1.5 years back." Okay, Sonia
Hi,
is a very good
Sonia.
writer,
Hi.
Meera. Okay, then Darshana
Yes.
says, "Hi, Meera. Great to see you live." And Meghna says, "Nice conversation." Thank you so much, ladies. And Devo
Thank
says,
you,
"Keep going."
guys.
Thank you so much. So, Meera, it was lovely talking to you about about your books, your journey, and how to make it big in Amazon. And all the best for everything. Thank you for coming
Yeah,
live
thank you.
for my
Yeah,
show.
thank you for having me here. It was nice to talk about this. It's not a topic that I talk about a lot. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm very happy to be here.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you for watching, and I love you. Bye bye.